New forms of Carnage, cybernetic upgrades, and absolute power over all reality? These are some unbelievable villain upgrades that you need to know about. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda. Today we're going to be talking about villains who received insane upgrades. What villain do you think deserves a major upgrade? Number 10. Red Goblin. Well, we've recently got a glimpse at a new Red Goblin who also seems to be more heroic in nature, Normie, the grandson of Norman Osborn. There was also a time when the Carnage symbiote was attached to another, much more sinister presence, Norman Osborn himself. Norman Osborn is typically known for his Goblin persona, one of, if not the, arch nemesis to Spider-Man, depending on, I guess, your own opinion. I feel like some people might say Doc Ock is, I personally would say Norman is, but you know, to each their own. However, there was a time when Norman was no longer the Goblin, having been forcefully cured against his will. In order to reclaim his Goblin abilities and persona, he teamed up with Carnage, as Carnage could help the serum work on Norman once more. Bonding together, they became Red Goblin, a terrifying enemy who succeeded in killing Flash Thompson, and almost also defeated Spider-Man himself. In fact, they would have defeated him if it weren't for Peter's own wit, as he convinced Norman to ditch the Carnage symbiote or risk having to share his victory over Spider-Man. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, and if you love when villains get super powerful upgrades, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 9. Captain Cold. The leader of the rogues in the DC Prime Earth universe, or at least one of the leaders, Leonard Snart became frustrated that his and his team's tech were not enough to defeat the Flash. As a result, he made a plan to use their weapons in order to imbue them all with powers. They did this by infusing their DNA with their own powers, blending their weapons with themselves in order to give themselves powers, although really this was kind of Captain Cold's decision himself. Everybody else didn't really have as much of a say. While this worked out well for Captain Cold, who gained cryokinesis powers, it did not work as well for some of the other members, who did gain powers, but ones that cost them in terms of their individual lives, being less easily controlled and manipulated as Leonard's, at least in some cases. Number 8. Lady Deathstrike. I mean, if you know the story of Lady Deathstrike, then I'm sure her upgrades won't be super unbelievable, but also if you know the story of Lady Deathstrike, then her villain upgrades may actually still be pretty unbelievable, because I feel like her story itself is unbelievable. Her origin story is just such a sad one that once you know about how she became a villain, you're probably going to be somewhat shocked and also feel for her, despite all the horrible and unforgivable things she has done as a villain. I know I personally have felt for her, and I think her story is super tragic, so let's get into that. Yuriko Oyama is the daughter of Kenji Oyama, a brilliant scientist but cruel father who actually invented the Adamantium bonding process and was known as the criminal overlord Lord Darkwind. He created the Adamantium bonding process and then it was stolen from him. Despite the fact that Yuriko was frequently mistreated by her father and even given a permanent face scar by him, which he gave to all his children, how nice, as a reflection of his own facial scarring that he suffered as a result of a World War II battle, Yuriko would eventually grow to emulate him anyways. Initially, she despised her father and even ended up killing him while protecting the hero Daredevil, which you'd think means that she would grow up to, you know, become a hero and do some good stuff. However, even once free of her father physically, she could not escape his hold on her mentally. Her lover, one of his assassins, who was blindly devoted to him, ended up taking his own life following Lord Darkwind's death. This caused a shift in Yuriko, who then set out to carry on her father's legacy instead of condemning him, which you'd think she would have, cybernetically enhancing her entire body and continuing to upgrade it more and more as time went on. And that's how she kind of becomes basically a major Wolverine villain, because she's all like, that adamantium bonding process, I must get Wolverine and take it back of my father's legacy. Number 7. Heatwave. Heatwave was another of the rogues who was part of the genome experiment to have their DNA combined with that of their weapons. However, Captain Cold's transformation was much less horrifying, I'd say, than Heatwave's. Like Captain Cold, Mick Rory's weapon was also elemental in nature, with his being a heat gun as opposed to a cold gun. His DNA combined with his weapon gave him pyrokinesis abilities, which looked like they were pretty terrifying to him initially, as his whole body ignited in flames. Not gonna lie, I'd also be pretty afraid of that. That doesn't sound like great powers to me. I do not like fire, so I like to be a fair distance away from fire. Safety. Number 6. Absolute Carnage. During the Absolute Carnage event, Carnage received one of the most epic upgrades ever, especially considering at the time he was pretty dead. Carnage had returned to Earth from space and in essence basically burned up on re-entry. Despite the symbiote's aim to try and keep its host, Cletus Cassidy, safe, the two entities combined as one both perished on their return. However, this wouldn't be the end for them because they would be resurrected by a cult that worshipped the god of symbiotes, Null, seeking to appease and awaken him. And also because it's Carnage, and Carnage can never stay dead even when you're like, but there's no way he could come back now, right? He still comes back. Carnage would be revived using the Grendel symbiote, making him extremely powerful, especially as he continued along on his mission to devour and collect the codices of all symbiote hosts, located in their spines, whether these hosts were superpowered or not, alive or dead. All in all, it was a very scary time. Number 5. Bizarro. Bizarro is a villain who is known for being insanely powerful, as he's kinda like an evil reflection of Superman, whether that be the version of Bizarro who is like a defective clone or was created to be the opposite of Supes by Lex Luthor, or the version of Bizarro who is in essence an alien from Bizarro World, or Hetrea, where everything is the opposite to our world, to Earth. People speak backwards, bad is considered good, even the formal name of the planet is technically just Earth spelt backwards. Hetrea. Bizarro, however, may be super strong like Superman, that isn't a direct opposite I guess, although his cold vision is, but he does not share Clark's intellect. Usually Bizarro is presented as being very dumb or simple-minded, at least in comparison to Superman, who is in essence an effortless super genius. However, with Bizarro 2, a defective clone of Superman created by Lex Luthor, he was, for a time, given a genius intellect as well. Unfortunately, this didn't last, but still, a super smart Bizarro is a terrifying, or perhaps, depending on the circumstances, more comforting thing to imagine. Number 4. Madelyne Pryor, Queen of Goblins and of Limbo? Madelyne Pryor is known as the Queen of Goblins, but did you know that she also recently became the Queen of Limbo? It is true. Now initially in the comics, Maddie was introduced to us as a love interest of X-Men member Cyclops, aka Scott Summers, and herself a normal human, so it would seem, without superpowers, who just happened to look like Jean Grey. From there, we learned that her looking identical to Jean was actually no coincidence, as she was in fact her clone, created by Mr. Sinister himself. Learning of this and tapping into her own power as basically a spark of the Phoenix gave her life, learning of this and tapping into her own power as well as experiencing constant mistreatment by her husband and those she believed she could call her friends, the X-Men, caused Maddie to suffer a mental breakdown, which resulted in her becoming evil, reaching out to the demons of Limbo and making a deal with them, and then kind of becoming the Goblin Queen as we know her. This caused the first Inferno event. After being defeated, initially Maddie would continue to pop up every now and then, often returning as a villain. More recently, she was permanently killed but received a new lease on life when she was resurrected on Krakoa. It seems she was ready to turn over a new leaf and forgive those who had mistreated her in the past, moving forward with her life. How healthy. She became the new Queen of Limbo after Magic sought to retire as ruling monarch of the Hellish Dimension, with Magic even going super far to be like, no, I trust Maddie, I think Maddie will be great. However, we later learn in the Dark Web event that Madelyne actually wasn't ready to give up her grudges, as she used her newfound power over Limbo to amass a demon army and once more attack New York City. Turns out her pretending to be over everything was a bit of a ruse because she still had some stuff that she needed to resolve. This too, however, would be resolved, but for a time, Maddie was back to being a villain and with a power boost from Limbo. Number 3. Golden Glider. While Lisa Snart's powers may initially not seem like an upgrade, considering, well, they did leave her in a coma, they're actually insanely powerful, and once she kinda came to embrace them, made her a fairly even match for the Flash, who is also known for being one of the most powerful heroes around. Definitely one of the most powerful heroes in my book. Like the other rogues, Lisa herself also received actual superpowers during the experiment that was conducted to give the members of the team superpowers. In fact, Lisa wasn't actually one of those who intended to gain powers here, but merely got hers by accident, because the whole experiment went a little wonky, there was an explosion, she got caught in the crossfire of that explosion that granted everyone else superpowers, with her astral form being separated from her body and her physical form being rendered comatose. Eventually, she would recover from the explosion, but as Glider in her astral form would go on to recruit her own rogues team, becoming a leader of the team for a while. In her astral form, Lisa is extremely fast, so fast that she can actually appear virtually invisible to most. Not only that, but she can also weaken a speedster's connection to the Speed Force, temporarily disrupting it. See what I mean? Extremely powerful. And Lisa didn't even ask for this upgrade, she didn't even want powers. Number 2. Adamantium Infused Bullseye. Maybe one of the most random upgrades to have happened, maybe not, considering at the time, kinda almost everyone was like getting adamantium, despite the fact that it's, supposed to be a super rare material in the Marvel universe. But hey, there was a time we were obsessed with adamantium. Kinda everyone was getting a little bit, a little piece. Bullseye ended up getting himself some adamantium pieces, some upgrades, which made him an even larger threat to Daredevil in the future. His bones were experimentally infused with the metal substance, or encased, or whatever, making him akin to someone like Wolverine in terms of his durability, and meaning he couldn't just easily be taken out like most human opponents. After all, while Bullseye may be an extremely skilled marksman, possibly the most skilled marksman in the Marvel universe, he was just that, a human with skills. But with the adamantium upgrade, which he received from Lady Deathstrike's father, Lord Darkwind, he was now much more unstoppable and deadly. I will say this, unlike Wolverine, Bullseye does not have a completely coated and infused adamantium skeleton. Only pieces of adamantium coat parts of his skeleton, but this also includes his spine, which is still pretty scarily durable, and I mean your spine is a lot of the things that you need to be durable if you want to do crazy stuff, so he can do some pretty crazy things now. Number 1. Emperor Joker. Emperor Joker has to be one of the most unbelievable villain upgrades we've seen thus far in the comics. Emperor Joker ended up stealing his powers from Mr. Mxyzptlk, the 5th dimensional imp who is sometimes a mischievous villain to Superman, and at other times kind of like an oddball ally depending on the story and depending on the writers. Mr. Mxyz only planned on giving Joker a small amount of his power, less than 1% I believe of his power. However, the Joker, being the trickster he himself is, managed to trick Mxyz into handing over 99.99% of his power instead. Ugh. Using this power, Joker ended up conquering the world easily, becoming Emperor Joker, even going so far as to literally devour China and making Batman his prisoner, who he would constantly torment and kill every single day, resurrecting him the next day to kinda do this all over again. In fact, Batman was left with no memory of this afterwards, having to have his mind wiped of these events, as otherwise he would have been so tormented by this experience that he would have not been able to continue on as a hero because he would have been broken. That's how bad it was for him. Fortunately, in the end, Superman ended up defeating Emperor Joker, not able to stand against him in terms of power levels. Superman defeated Joker by realizing his weakness, that the Joker really could not go on or continue to exist without Batman, which was why he couldn't bring himself to destroy Batman permanently, and that also meant that he couldn't destroy the universe permanently, so basically that's it. Made him a little unstable, and then they were able to take the power back. Woo! I feel like villains getting upgrades almost ensures their victory, at least, temporarily. What do you think? Are upgrades a cool way to let villains win the day, or are they a bit of a cop-out to you? Do you think villains don't need that to win the day sometimes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Bye!